Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Sunday gathering. It's so good to have you guys this morning. Happy Sunday. Happy 8th day. I hope you guys are doing great. I'll just call out some of you. I want to say good morning. So, good morning, Suomi Tora. Good morning, Robert. Good morning, Red Raven. Good morning, Christine, Julia, Mike, Ed. It's good to see all you guys. Let's see who's next. We got Rick. Good morning, Rick. We got Austin. Good morning, sir. Whitestone. Good morning to you. Christina S. Good morning to you. I think I said Christine. And Sam, it's good to see you this morning. B. Nichols, good to have you. Kelsey, good morning. And Pam, it's good to see you. Great to have all you guys this morning. Thank you for joining. And I just want to remind you all, it's important for us to remember that even what we do here, what you do in the chat and what I do on these live streams is seen throughout the week by hundreds and hundreds of people that can't make the live stream. It's generally at this point, it's about average of around 1,000 views or so on the videos each week. So throughout the week, people watch this, on their way to work or listen to it or whatever. You never know. So just be aware that, even you guys influence from the chat, and you influence me on what I talk about and how we interact. It's all important, and it builds the kingdom as far as other people listening all over the place. So just be aware that, I think it should make you excited that, your comments and everything we talk about has a reach that's further than you probably expect. And then also be aware that what you say is important. And so be careful of what you say in the chat, just for that reason. So I just wanted to mention that. I was reminded of that this week, that sometimes we got people watching, even sometimes on the lives, that don't speak up at all. So we don't know they're there, but it's important to realize that we just have a far reach in what we do here. So thank you guys for joining me in that. Good morning, Laura. It's good to see you. And Stacy, good morning. Good morning, AI Rap Legends and Precurious. It's good to see you guys. Zoo Knows, good morning to you. I think I've seen you in there before, but it's been a while, if I'm not mistaken. All right. Well, guys, I've got two topics that have been mentioned already, one from Robert and one from Christine. So if there's other things that you're interested in talking about this morning, do remember that we also will be doing our scripture reading today, starting in Mark chapter 3. We'll read that together. Good morning, West Wind, and albino spider monkey. Morning, Pukwudgie. Good morning, sir. Good to have you. All right. Well, guys, go ahead and get a few more topics in chat if you want a few more. And otherwise, it's fine if you don't. We can do a little more reading. So that's the good thing about us now starting to do our readings, is we can fill in with that. If we, would rather do that than have more topics, that's fine with me. It doesn't matter to me. Okay. Patriot, you say, good morning, by the way. You say you posted your question last night. Did I get it? I don't think I did, Patriot. Can you put it in again? I don't think I got it. I didn't see it. Gay Marie, it's good to see you. Good morning. Susan, good morning. Well, I'll go ahead and just get some of the announcements out of the way while you guys are thinking about topics. Go ahead and put them in the chat if you come up with something. But I'll go ahead and kind of start just giving the general announcements, and then we'll move on from there. So for those of you who might be new, I'm Bible Scribe. My name is David, and I've been doing this channel, for about 5 years or so. We've been doing the live streams on Sunday mornings like this for about 3 years. Well, 2.5 or so. So yeah, we do this every week. We're always together on Sunday mornings at 10:30 a.m. Eastern, 9:30 Central, 7:30 Pacific. And so hopefully that's a time when most people are going to be able to join that want to. I know around the world that causes problems with different time zones, but my friends in Australia and my friends in Europe sometimes find a way to also join in the live, but we care about you too. So make sure you contact me if there's anything you're interested in and you need to interact with us at all. But we do this every Sunday, and I'll just show on my screen. I have this website that is available. The website is kind of my clearinghouse for everything I work on. I try to put every single thing I do, when I'm finished with it, I put it up there so that it's available in that way. So whether you're on any of these platforms that I'm on, YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, any of these, you can always see on the website what's the latest thing I've done. I'm trying to keep that way. So that's what I do at the website, and it's here, it's available. You can contact me very easily by clicking contact. It shows my email address. You can just email me, as I've had a few people do even this week. And I'm on all these different platforms. Be aware of those platforms. I won't name them all, but I'll mention a few just because I think it's crucial that you understand. On Facebook, I have a prayer group that we all use, a number of us use, for our prayer requests and to pray throughout the week. I feel like I've got some really good prayer warriors on there. And so even when we have requests that come up in the live stream, I put those straight on that channel in the afternoon after the live stream, and then we pray on those throughout the week. So a very important part of what we do here. You can also be in that prayer group if you want to. You must just go and request access. You can click the tile here on the website to get to all of that. The other thing I'll mention is the Telegram channel. If you join that, I occasionally post news that kind of reaches into the Christian sphere, either the Bible or the church, or those types of topics. So that's a good place to be too, just to see occasional news items, maybe one or so a day. I don't post a lot of things there, but it's good to be there and be connected with us. We can also discuss things there. And then YouTube is, of course, my main channel. It's where I post research videos and we do these live streams. I also mirror everything to Rumble. I'm streaming on Rumble right now. So YouTube and Rumble are the two places you can see most of the video and research work that I have done. And again, use the website to find all of those things. They all should be cataloged and listed there so that you can get to them. Now, I'll mention that I have another channel called Sci-Cry. It's up here on the top right in the tile here. And that is a channel that is more dedicated to kind of other topics that are not necessarily biblical. So just things that I've discovered through the years, different conspiracies that are not conspiracies, things like that. This is also, to me, a very personal part of my work. So other than the Bible Scribe channel, I do put some energy and time into this occasionally when I see the need. So that's something you can also be a part of. Then be aware the first tile here on the top left is the application that I have built, and we're going to be using this today, but this is the Bible Scribe app, and it is free for anyone to register. When you register, you become a guest user. That allows you on a very limited number of books. You see here that I have many books in this app. It's got the Bible, and it's got a lot of other apocryphal works like Book of Enoch, Book of Jasher. It's got the Dead Sea Scrolls. It has the Book of Esdras and Baruch, different prophetic books. And it has a lot of early Christian writings. So you have Clement of Rome, and you have, for instance, Tertullian and Justin Martyr. You've got a lot of these writings, so you can cross-reference and search between them. So when you register and you become a guest, you have the access to just a short number of those books, I think 4 or 5. And you can still go into those books, including the Bible. You can read, you can take notes, you can cross-reference things and look stuff up. However, if you want to become a member, I try to put pretty clear guidance on the site that to become a member, you can go to my Give, Send, Go, and I'll have a link. I have a link in the description of this video. If you go to my Give, Send, Go, for every $10 that you put in that fund, essentially you're buying $10 a month. You're buying a month's worth of of access as a member to the Bible Scribe app. So for every $10, you're a member for an additional month. And if you add, you continue to donate or you add more, I just extend that out. So your membership will just grow over time if you add more money. But Give, Send, Go also allows you to do a $10 a month subscription if you want to do that. So this is to just support the work that I've put into this application, probably hundreds, if not thousands of hours of software development time and effort into this application. So I feel it's a very valuable resource. Well, I know it's a valuable resource for myself, so I'm making that available to you too. So if you want to support that work or me in any way, you can get a subscription as a member to that application. And some people have done that, and I really appreciate those who have done that. Thank you so much. All right. Other than that, I think that's about it. As far as announcements, what I did this week. So let me talk a little bit about my work this week. And I mentioned it last week. I have spent almost every waking hour this week trying to finish a video. And it is a video, it's entitled Real Disclosure. And it, as the title sounds, it does have to do with the disclosure of alien contact and alien intervention, if that's what you want to call it. The disclosure of perhaps secret government programs, the disclosure of anything related to the quote alien or UAP phenomenon that's now kind of had a resurgence this year. And I'm talking in that video all about the disclosure that's happening now and what has happened in the past and how it all connects and what might be the actual thing that is being hidden by the disclosure process that's going on right now. It's actually not a fully open and transparent process. There's a lot of disinformation, a lot of bad actors in the disclosure process. So this video kind of cuts through that like a knife and goes through everything and shows you, I think, start to finish, what is the thing that is part of this disclosure that is just not going to be talked about. It's not going to be mentioned. It hasn't generally been mentioned very often at all. And when it is, it's kind of shoved under the rug and put aside. So I've spent tons of hours getting this edited. And I don't know honestly why. I guess it was a long video. It's 2 hours in total. I think what I'm going to do with this video, by the way, is I'm going to release it on both of my channels. It's going to be released on SciCry in full format. Okay, so it's going to happen probably either this afternoon or Monday, tomorrow. It's going to release in full form, 2 hour long form on SciCry, on the channel SciCry. Then on the Bible Scribe channel, it's going to be released in segments. I'm going to break it up actually into 10 different segments. And so it'll come out over the days. And there's reasons I'm doing it this way. But if you're willing to go over to the SciCry channel and take a look after this is released, you can watch the whole thing start to finish. Or if you're fine with catching it in chunks, then on the Bible Scribe channel, it's going to come out in chunks. So I'm excited about that. I'm so excited to get it to you and hear what you guys think about it. It's pretty sobering material, really. So yeah, I am interested in the response that I get from this. So that'll be interesting. It's coming. So that's it. Let me run back through your comments right now and see if I can pull any more of you guys', I think, topics have been dropped. So let me take a look and see what you guys have been saying. Okay, let's see. Christine had one. What channels can I recommend for information on sound eschatology? That's an interesting question. I can answer that. Stacia, I think you put one here. Been reading Exodus. Notice the altar is to be an unhewn stone. Did it change in the New Testament? That's an interesting question, Stacia. I don't know if I know anything about it. That's a really interesting question. Very interesting. Maybe we'll just look that verse up together. Do you have the verse by any chance, Stacia? If you do, then I'll the best I can do is really just look up the verse and see it for myself. I don't know that I've even paid attention to it before. So if you'll send me a verse reference, then I'll maybe go into it. Christine, you have a prayer request. Okay, I'm putting that in our prayer notes. Thank you, Christine. Let's see. Going down through your comments, guys. Just reading, trying to make sure I don't miss anything. Adam, I think I see yours here. Guessing it's been asked recently. Do I believe AI tools is a sin? Using AI tools is a sin. I can talk about that, Adam, for sure. Red Raven, your employer has the app blocked, the Bible Scribe app? That's funny. It's probably not specifically blocked, but it is. I mean, it's probably part of a whitelist situation because your employer will only let you obviously use. They probably have a whitelist of the sites that you can access. They don't actually block me specifically, but I'm blocked with everything else that's outside that whitelist. So yeah, that's probably how it works at a lot of offices, depending on who it is you're working for. Robert, you have one, Zechariah 14:21. I'll put that on the list, Robert, but I've already got one from you too, so let me see where we get. I'll put that one toward the bottom of the list. Thank you, though. White Stone, let's see, you say Proverbs 26 to protect us from cursed items. Yeah, we'll talk about it. Let's see here. That's a good topic. I like that. Now we've got a lot of topics. Now we're getting there. Okay, stop posting topics. Albino Spider Monkey, I like your comment there on the Dark Ages. That's a good comment. All right. Okay. Okay, Stacia, I see what you said. So maybe we'll try to find it real quick. We'll try to find that when we get to it. All right. Okay, I've got all the topics, and that's a good number. So now I'm at 1, 2, 3, 4, about 7 topics. So we've got our reading and we've got the topics. Let's go ahead and get started with some prayer. So if you guys have some prayer requests, please mention those right now in the chat. I'm going to scoop them up as best I can and get them over our prayer group this afternoon, and then we'll pray for those throughout the week. So let me bow and pray, and if you guys have requests, please put them in the chat. Lord God, please still my heart. Help me to focus. Thank you so much for the time this morning to be with these people who definitely care about you. We're all striving to get to you, to get closer to you, to understand you. Help me to be a tool in that regard, to help these people in that way. Please lead us as we search scriptures and other writings. Lead us to truth. Lead us to understanding. And I pray, Lord, for those in need on the live stream today, that you are with them, that you give them guidance, give them understanding. And I thank you so much for this time, this opportunity that we have to be together on Sunday mornings in this way. And I just give you the praise, the honor, and the glory for that and for the building of your kingdom. It's in the name of your Son, Jesus Christ, that I pray. Amen. All right. Thank you, guys. Tanya, I see your request, and I have got it. I've got it. Emma Coombs, good morning to you. Yes, I'll put your request there. Got it. Thank you. All right. Oh, Red Raven, I'm sorry to hear that too. I've got your request. Thank you, HRG M33. I've got yours. Okay. All right. So I guess we'll go ahead and get started for today. And let's start with our Bible reading. Mark chapter 3 is where we are today. And we go week by week. We just go to each chapter in Mark and go there and start reading through. And I'll pull out what I can as we go. Let me pull open my note Bible to make sure that if there's something I have in my notes there that I want to bring forward, that I don't miss it. That sometimes helps me. Let's see. Mark chapter 3. Ooh, I have a lot of notes on this one. Okay. Yep. Okay, great. Yeah, this is a good chapter. It's sort of short, but it's a good one. I'm in Timothy. Let's see. Let me make sure this is on your screen. And let's go to this view so it's bigger for y'all. Let's see. Just trying to make sure you guys can see. Sometimes I wonder, because I don't know if you're watching on a phone, it's probably really hard to see some of what we do on the scriptures and stuff. So I try to be careful about that, but it's not easy all the time. My chroma key is getting nasty. Hold on one second, guys. I apologize. Oops. Now you're gonna see the wizard behind the curtain now. I'm gonna try to do something on my camera. It's probably gonna mess it up for a second. Hang on one second. I just want to make sure that I'm not bleeding through and covering up some of the scriptures there. Okay. So in Mark 3, let's start reading chapter 3, verse 1. And Jesus entered again into the synagogue. There was a man there with a withered hand. And they watched him whether he would heal him on the Sabbath day. If you remember correctly, then you remember that in the previous chapter, Jesus had just been talking about the new things and how you didn't put old wine into new wineskins new wine into old wineskins, and those types of parable statements. He's trying to say that the kingdom has come and it's different. And in the context, he's also, in that same passage, they go through the cornfields and they start gleaning corn. And then the Pharisees and scribes see that and they're like, you can't do that on the Sabbath. And he just healed a man and then forgave his sins in the previous chapter. So they're like, you don't do that. You're blasphemous and you're doing things on the Sabbath you're not supposed to do. So he already is in this context where he's kind of shucking all the rules and regulations that both the Mosaic law and the practices that they had included, the scribes and Pharisees had included in the law, the Talmudic type practice. Well, I shouldn't say Talmudic. That's way further in the future. I should say the rabbinic law, so the kind of oral Torah, the Mishnah, if you will. But so that's the context we're in. So again, now he's healing a man with a withered hand, and they watch him and they say they're wondering if he's going to do this on the Sabbath day because they want to accuse him. So in verse 3, and he says unto the man which had the withered hand, stand forth. And he says unto them, is it lawful to do good on the Sabbath days, or to do evil, to save life, or to kill? But they held their peace. They didn't answer. And when he had looked round about on them with anger, being grieved for the hardness of their hearts, he said unto the man, stretch forth your hand. And he stretched it forth, and his hand was restored whole as the other. And the Pharisees went forth and straightway took counsel with the Herodians against him, how they might destroy him. Now the Herodians, I'm assuming by Herodians, I kind of want to look this up because I believe, because it's obviously about the King Herod, I would imagine the Herodians were either descendancy from Herod or part of the family or their group or, I don't know, tribe, if you will. So I'm curious about that. I kind of want to go over here. Yeah, the Greek word Herodionon. Let's see here. commentary. Let's see if it gives us much here. The way that this commentary says it is Herod's partisans. Herod's partisans. Maybe it's a political class is what they're really talking about, Herodians. Yeah, I just wanted to see if there's any more information about who the Herodians are. I would imagine it's like a political class or possibly people related to King Herod in some way, but that seems to be what we're talking about here. So now, if you remember, though, just remember too that the Herodians were that group of people. For instance, John the Baptist was beheaded by the daughter of Herod, right? Herodias. So be aware that they were very antagonistic towards John the Baptist, and then later on towards Christ. Verse 7, but Jesus withdrew himself with his disciples to the sea, and a great multitude from Galilee followed him, and from Judea. So be aware let's get the picture here. The geographical picture again. I like doing that, as you know. So let's go over to, let's go over here to the Middle East. So just to be, again, aware of where we are and what's going on. So the Sea of Galilee right here on your screen. This is where all the stuff has been happening. If I'm not mistaken, I believe this is Nazareth. And so you can see how close it was to Galilee. And what it just told us was that there were not only Galileans following Christ around from city to city, but there were Judeans. Now, Judea is down in this area. This is Judea, south of Jerusalem. So the word had really gotten around at this point, and we're only 3 chapters into the book of Mark, but you see how quickly the word of what was going on was getting around. And so I just wanted to give you that perspective. These people, of course, down here had to travel up, probably along the Jordan River somehow, to get to this area at all. And it was days of travel. So what was happening is, message was getting out. People were hearing, and they're like, let's go to Galilee and either visit our relatives or just go up there and stay and see what is going on, because it was so amazing as far as what Jesus was doing with the healings and everything else. So there's your kind of geographical context from where we are. Jesus withdrew himself at this point with the disciples to the sea, and a great multitude followed him. They were also, it says, from Jerusalem and Idumea, which is nearby, the same area of Judea, and from beyond Jordan. And they about Tyre and Sidon, a great multitude, when they had heard what the great things he did, came to him. So, okay, let's get more of this context in here. So, as we said, this is Galilee. This is where they are. Now, when it mentioned first Judea and Idumea, which is probably these areas in here, if I'm not mistaken. And then it said Jordan. Now, Jordan is more on this side of the Dead Sea. And then the Tyre and Sidon, let's see. I thought I had them marked on this map, but I think... There we go. Yeah, they're from the north. That's right. So up north. So again, Sea of Galilee here, Tyre and Sidon. So that's from the north. So they were coming down and up from all areas to get to see Jesus at this point. He had just throngs of people following him. That's why a lot of what he did, he had to do in the countryside, kind of on a hillside or by the water, on the beach, whatever, because there were so many people coming. All right. So verse 9 in Mark 3. And he spake to his disciples that a small ship should wait on him because of the multitude, lest they should throng him. So Jesus says, well, I need to stand in a boat to speak to these people. They're apparently on the seashore. I need to stand in a boat. There's too many people. I'm going to get smushed. I just can't do this. For he had healed many, and so much they pressed on him just to touch him, as many as had plagues. And unclean spirits, when they saw him, fell down before him and cried, saying, Thou art the Son of God. And straightly he charged them that they should not make him known. Again, you see Jesus pulling back and telling people, don't go telling everybody about this. And he does it right after, especially the Son of God. It's when the people with unclean spirits recognize him as the Son of God. He says, don't go tell people that. Okay? Don't go telling that. So it's very interesting. It's like this phase of his ministry, he wants the miracles to do their work, but he doesn't want to necessarily identify himself. And you can see that in what he says to people. He's not saying, I am the Son of God. I've been sent from my Father at this point. It's different. He's almost talking about himself as he speaks in third person. So he's kind of coming around the back door with these people. He's trying to probably win as many as possible. So he's doing it through the signs at this point. He's casting out the demons. He's healing people. All of this stuff. And he goes into a mountain in verse 13. And he calls unto him whom he would. And they came to him. And he ordained the 12 that they should be with him, and that he might send them forth to preach and have power to heal sickness and cast out devils. And it names them Simon, Peter, James, son of Zebedee, John, the brother of James, surnamed Boanerges, or Boanerges, which is sons of thunder, Andrew, Philip, Bartholomew, Matthew, Thomas, James of Alphaeus, Thaddeus, and Simon the Canaanite, and Judas Iscariot, which was the one that betrayed him. And they all went together into a house. So he separates from the crowds, and he brings the 12, and he essentially commissions the 12, takes them into a house alone. But the multitude in verse 20 comes together again, so much so they could not eat their bread. But before we move on, just realize the significance of this. Now, we've talked so much on my channel and everything about the numbers that are in the Bible. The fact that there were 12 disciples, and the fact that everything we've seen from Christ so far is that he went to the Jewish synagogues. He went to Galilee, which was a Jewish hub of settlement. And then we've got people coming from all over the place, but every single focus of Christ during his ministry is mainly on the Jews. And I'm going to use the word Jews. I know everyone has their own opinions on, just for clarity, I'm just going to say Jews, okay? And I think you know what I mean by that. Essentially the Israelites, okay? But just be aware that the number 12 was such an important number to the Jewish nation. It was, of course, the number of the tribes of Israel. And so every time you really see the number 12 in scriptures, you need to think of Israel and the tribes. We have 12 signs of the zodiac, which used to be called the Mazzaroth. We talked about last week briefly. And there's 12 signs because God put into heaven the signs of each tribe of Israel. Those signs are the signs of each tribe. And so you got to be aware how important this is, and how it's not just some accident that Christ, commissions 12. And then, of course, later on, we're going to see him sending them out, and he's going to send them out to all Jewish provinces and the synagogues. So you start to realize, I will say that most of my life growing up, I just wasn't taught that much understanding about how Christ's ministry connected specifically to Israel and the Jews. It to me was, I just thought he was going to anyone, all around and just doing healings and miracles, and it was all for me, necessary, that he was going to Jews and Gentiles alike. I didn't think about it. I didn't know any better, and I wasn't taught any better, really. So when I finally realized how specific Christ's ministry was, it does make a difference. It helps you understand God's plan for trying to give the Jewish Israelite nation one last chance to return to him en masse, that he would take them back, gathered him. He said in a couple different places, I would that I could gather you like a hen gathers her chicks. That's what Christ was doing in this ministry, trying to gather them back to God. And it says in those passages too that they wouldn't have it. So you start to understand what Christ is doing at this point. Stacia, I picked up now your reference, so thank you for that. Thank you so much for that. I'll put that in my note by your topic, and we'll get there. Thank you. What else you guys saying about some of this so far? Alvin, I got your request, just so you're aware. All right. All right. All right, let's continue then. So in verse 20, we read that the multitude was coming together again, even though Jesus and the disciples had separated into this house. The multitude had come apparently, and they were surrounding it. Who knows exactly what the situation was? It was so much they couldn't even eat their food together and just, get away. And it says, when his friends heard of it, they went out to lay hold on him, for they said he is beside himself. So I'm assuming that his friends means Jesus' friends, meaning friends he would have had from before his ministry really started, perhaps. That's what it sounds like here. And even his friends thought he was out of his skull, like he had gone mad, apparently. That's what it says here. He is beside himself. That they thought he was going a little mad. So they were thinking they were going to maybe grab him, pull him aside, and teach him a lesson or something. I don't know. In verse 22, it says, the scribes which came down from Jerusalem said, he has Beelzebub, and by the prince of devils he casts out devils. Well, Jesus calls them unto him, and he says to them, how can Satan cast out Satan? If a kingdom is divided against itself, that kingdom cannot stand. If a house is divided against itself, the house cannot stand. And if Satan rises up against himself and is divided, he cannot stand, but has an end. No man can enter into a strong man's house and spoil his goods, except he will first bind the strong man, then he will spoil his house. This is a very important verse, and I want you to think about this, because this is, let me see if I can do this real quick. Where else is the strong man mentioned? Let's see. Yeah, Matthew 12:29. So let's go look at that real quick. It's the same event, same passage essentially. Again, they're accusing him of casting out demons by Beelzebub, which is obviously a little contradictory. Because I guess the thing I'm thinking and I wanted to bring to your attention is when we look at this strong man statement, no man can enter a strong man's house and spoil his goods except he first binds the strong man, and then he spoils his house. So this is a statement really about Christ spoiling Satan's plans, okay? And it's such a veiled statement. It's such a veiled statement. In this parable of a strong man and a thief breaking in and stealing, Christ is the thief and the strong man is Satan. So what Christ is saying here, I'm definitely not with Satan, but if I'm going to defeat Satan, he says, you first have to bind the strong man, and then you can spoil his house. You can take what is his. So Jesus, in this case, is the thief, and he is binding Satan. He is casting out demons. He is reducing Satan's power, and then he's going to spoil Satan's house, so to speak. So that's what we're seeing. And of course, we know, what happened when Christ died and went to the grave. He did go down and spoil Satan's house. He spoiled Hades. So he took then the righteous out, and he took what was rightfully Satan's in that case. So again, this is such a veiled statement. It's so cool to hear Christ say this this early in his ministry against these Pharisees and scribes that are talking about him being, they're accusing him of being part of Satan's, legion or whatever, being a demoniac himself, or being an evil person. And he calls them on it and tells them in this veiled sense, like, no, I've come to defeat Satan. I love it. It's great. Verse 28, verily I say to you, all your sins will be forgiven, all sins will be forgiven to the sons of men, and blasphemies wherewith soever they blaspheme. But he that blasphemes against the Holy Ghost has never forgiveness, but is in danger of eternal damnation. Oh man, this is important, guys. This is an important little addition to this passage. So this is the unforgivable sin, right? This is the blasphemy of the Holy Spirit that's talked about. And people all over, for as long as I can remember, have questioned, well, what is this blasphemy of the Holy Spirit? Nobody knows. Nobody can explain it. Well, it's actually very clearly explained in the Epistle of Barnabas. And it's very clearly explained that it is, if you see the Holy Spirit working in another man's life and you denounce it or come against it, that's the blasphemy of the Holy Spirit. It's you denying the work of God, the work of the Holy Spirit in some other person's life. So in this passage, you can see how pertinent that is, because he just was casting out a demon out of a man, and they were accusing him. They were committing the blasphemy of the Holy Spirit. Do you see? They were accusing that work, which was work of the Holy Spirit. They were accusing that of being evil, of being of Satan. So that's the blasphemy of the Holy Spirit. They just committed it, and Christ is telling them, he's throwing it back in their face in this instance, saying, yeah, all sins will be forgiven to the sons of men except the blasphemy of the Holy Spirit, which is what you just did. You're in danger of the eternal damnation, he says, because they said he has an unclean spirit. There came then. Okay, so then it goes on, but I hope that settles on you and you feel that. It's so big. It's so important. It's just amazing what all is packed into these little passages that we sometimes just gloss over. We don't even see it. Verse 31, there came then his brethren and his mother, Jesus' brethren and his mother. So his family, maybe some friends, standing outside, and they sent to him, calling him. And the multitude sat about him, and they said to him, behold, your mother and your brothers seek for you. And he answered them, saying, who is my mother or my brothers? Now, of course, Christ already probably knows that they are coming to do something to him, to argue with him, to stop him from doing whatever it is he's doing, his ministry. Because again, it said up the top at a previous verse that they felt that he was beside himself. He was out of his gourd, so to speak. So this is Christ saying, who is my mother? Who are my brothers? He looks around on those that sat around him, and he said, behold, my mother and my brothers. Now this is pretty bold. So Christ may be in the presence of his brothers and mother, and they're trying to get him. They're calling to him saying, Jesus, stop all this nonsense. Come back home and let's get you taken care of. You're sick or something. And Jesus says, with them in tow, he says, who are my mother and my brothers? These people. And he points now to the people around him who are faithfully listening to everything he says, hanging on every word. He says, these are my family. You can't even kind of like believe how bold Christ was. It's just amazing, and that's the kind of thing to me that, I could do a better job of it, but I would love to pattern my life and the way I interact with people and the way I do things, especially in terms of my Christianity and what I believe. I would love to be that bold in front of people, be that way. And not in a sense of, attacking people, but to be as shrewd and as understanding as Christ was, and to say things the way he did, There are just some times where he absolutely calls the moment, and he tears down the people that are wickedly coming against him, and in the same moment he can build the people that are holy and righteous. And it's just, he gives us this perfect model, I think, of kind of how you can address situations in boldness. And in fact, there's testimonies of that we have from history, that the things he said, I think they're in some of the, quote, letters from Pilate that are available from the ancient times, from the time of Christ, where it says that the way he spoke was unlike anything anyone had ever heard before. Just amazing, the skill, the understanding, and the I don't know, intelligence of what he did. It was just so far off the charts that I think we should spend more time, focusing on how can we be more like Christ in almost every sense. How can we be more like him? He says in the last verse of the passage, verse 35, whoever does the will of God, the same is my brother and my sister and my mother. So he again qualifies who he's talking about. And at the same time, he's also kind of telling his family, who might be sitting right there, he's saying, are you going to do the will of God? Is that what you're about? Or are you about stopping me or doing whatever it is you think you're going to do here? So he's calling them out in a sense, but also calling them to God, calling them to righteousness. So that's Jesus for you. That's how he is. It's just amazing. You can't get over how impressive what he did and what he said was. You just can't. Yeah, Christine, a righteous rebel who didn't take any crap. It's amazing. Yeah, Whitestone, he was awesome. Every word, amazing. What else are you guys talking about? Just looking back through the comments here. All right. Well, that's good. Let's see. That didn't take very long. I don't know. I'm tempted to go another chapter, but we do have some topics to get to, so I think we'll just go ahead and stick with our one chapter a day. I think we'll do that, and we'll just go on to our topics. Adby, are you on there? It's good to see you. It's been a while. All right. All right, guys. Well, let's go ahead and start getting into the topics. This should be good. Let me look at them very briefly and see if there's any ordering I want to do other than what I've got here. Okay. Let's see. Okay, I think I've got a good order here. So let's start with Christine. Your question. You asked about Christine, you asked me what channels, I guess, on YouTube or online would I recommend for more information for sound eschatology and teaching. Here's the thing. Let me turn off my screen. There we go. Here's the thing. I spend almost zero time with biblical teaching online. I almost spend zero time listening to other teachers at this point. Now, I don't know if I can explain to you why that is. I mean, of course, I'm in the Bible and doing all this stuff so much that my time is very limited. So for me to take 2 hours a week out of my schedule and listen to somebody on a regular basis, or 1 hour a week, sometimes that's difficult, and I can tell you there's some people that I've enjoyed over the years, but I don't listen to anybody regularly. Nobody. So that to me is like where I kind of feel like I shouldn't really recommend anybody to you. Because I just don't consume that information that way. If I ever have a question, like something I'm researching, I'll put it this way: my first step is always to go to the scriptures and the other writings that I know about, because I guess at this point there's been so much that I've seen now in the writings that there's very few topics that if you mention them to me that I wouldn't know that, oh, I've read that here or I saw that here. And then I start going to those ancient writings and reading what they say about them. That's my source. That's my primary source. So then after that, if I have questions about what they say and I don't understand it, then I will generally sometimes seek out a third party, someone that's already gone through it maybe, especially if it's a complicated topic, and see what they say about it. So I'm almost always consuming that type of information in a very specific, targeted research style format where I'm looking for information on a certain thing. So I typically just don't listen to anybody on a regular basis. So I feel bad about that, but about not being able to give you a recommendation. But I'll just mention a few people. So let me see. Yeah. Nope, not that guy. I'm so bad at this. Let's look. Why don't we do this? Why don't I pull up my history on YouTube? Full disclosure. Let me pull up my history on YouTube. Hang on a second. View all. Let's just see how this works. Okay. Let's pull up my history on YouTube. Here we go. This will be interesting. You may see some things here. I don't know. Oh, come on. Show the screen. There we go. So here's my history on YouTube. Let's see. A lot of this in the recent history is going to have to do with my research for some of the stuff on my real disclosure video that's coming out. So this Mount Zion Community Church is a person that I know personally, so I was watching that a week ago. You can see I'm going through a lot of UFO stuff. I started watching this series on what is it, Hulu, that's called Monsters in the Light, or excuse me, it's called How I Escaped My Cult. And it's a really amazing series so far. I've learned about some cults I didn't know existed. But I looked up the main theme song from that because I thought the song sounded cool. Let's see. Katy Perry. You guys know me and Katy Perry, Bill Ryan, Aerial School, UFO Encounters. There's a lot of that going to happen here. A lot of that. Okay, so you can see where my watching has gone recently. Let's see. Famous cult here, the Alamo cult. Peter Gabriel. A lot more UFO stuff, a lot more underground bases. Yes, Jimmy Fallon, a little funny stuff every now and then keeps me going. Even though Jimmy Fallon's total tool. Let's see. There's been so much on the that video research I've been doing that that's going to be the majority here. Mark Dice video. I was hoping I could get back to some. There's obviously some stuff that. Yeah, this is gonna be a waste of our time, guys. The Geneva Bible Timeline by Adam Unchained, right there. That's a cool one. You can see my Nazi videos there. Some Saturday Night Live. 80s songs. You're gonna find a lot of 80s songs. I'm sorry. This is probably not helpful for anybody, but this is funny to me. Yes, Creo Mudwa or Mutti or Mundi. That's right, the father. Oh, goodness. Celebrity Jeopardy clips. Those are funny. The national anthem subliminal messages. You guys know about that, right? I hope you know about that. The January 6th prisoner releases that were going on about a month ago. I watched those live. A bunch of live streams there. Oh my gosh. Video game stuff. Movie soundtracks. Sometimes I'd grab audio tracks for videos I'm putting together. This is it. See, there's the Antarctica stuff when we're doing the Antarctica videos. Oh well, I think this is a waste of time, guys, but I'll just say that like I don't really have any good recommendations for for biblical teachers. I would just say use your judgment. You know, that's to me the best thing. I don't want to. What is the guy? I'm trying to think of the guy who there's a guy I'm trying to think of that yeah, okay, so I'll just say this, like one guy that I do like and I watch him occasionally from time to time. Here's one. Doug Wilson. Do you guys know this guy? He's kind of a post-millennialist, but I like Doug Wilson. I think he speaks well. I think he's a little rehearsed in his presentations, but I like Doug Wilson's stuff. I like him. He's good. I mean, I've actually watched some of his stuff for a long time since I first started understanding, you know, preterist kind of mentality and all that. I ran across Doug Wilson. I like his stuff. I can't say much about that. I like R.C. Sproul. Of course, he's passed on now, but R.C. Sproul is one that I always enjoyed everything I heard from R.C. And there's, of course, you can find tons of stuff from R.C. He did that series, The Last Days According to Christ, or According to Jesus, I think it's called. An amazing little series there. And so there's good things there. Who was the guy that debated Billy Carson recently? He really impressed me. Yeah, Wes Huff. So Wes Huff really impressed me. When I saw the debate, Wes Huff impressed me severely. So if I was going to go spend a lot of time like trying to overload on information, you know, Wes Huff might be one of the ones I would look at because he knows a lot of ancient writings that I talk about. He knows them very well. So I would love to hear his take on some of that stuff. Again, it's a time issue for me. And of course, there's other things that are pulling my time severely. You know, I don't, of course, do this Bible Scribe channel full time. So I have a full-time job also. So that is, of course, takes most of my days. And at the end of the day, I try to gear up the energy to continue to sit down and do more work on Bible Scribe and related stuff. So yeah, my time is just so spoken for that it's difficult for me to spend a lot of extra time on people. I will say another person, of course, you know, I'm going to mention all the same people that I always mention, but Bruce Gore is just an incredible teacher. He's been doing it for a long time, and you will not go wrong by listening to anything that Bruce Gore talks about. He's just a very well-studied professor. He actually, if he's not still, he was a professor at a university. So Bruce Gore is incredible. The other one I was going to mention that I think is just really amazing, and I was talking with someone else this last week or so about this guy. He's SDA, and for some reason I now want to think of his name, and I cannot think of his name. What is his name? Total Onslaught. He did the series Total Onslaught. Yeah, Walter Veith. Why couldn't I think of Walter Veith? Walter Veith. He's done some really incredible work. Now, he doesn't share all of my, of course, opinions, understandings on scripture, but he does so much good other stuff that I am willing to listen to his stuff anyway, to hear what he says. He's a very interesting individual. So I think that is what I would say at this point. Those are the people that when I think of, like, when I want to go learn something about the Bible or Bible study, I go to those places, but it's not always for what you might call sound doctrine. So Christine, when you say, I want some sound eschatology teachings, if you want sound eschatology teachings, I don't know who to tell you to go listen to. I don't know who to tell you to go listen to. To be honest, like, my viewpoint right now is in such a specific place that I have a hard time. I don't know who I could find that really would agree with everything that I teach and everything that I believe. And I know you guys understand a lot of that, but it's always a matter of, like, well, this person understands the first century pretty well, but they think that was Christ's final coming and there's nothing in the future. So then there's a person that some of their stuff's okay, but they obviously have a misunderstanding of the writings, and the writings not only of the Bible, but what came after the Bible and the entire time period. They don't understand the history. They don't understand what happened. So then I'll go to another person, and maybe they're a little seasoned person, but then they're also teaching about, you know, the 1,000-year millennium being an earthly millennium, and then a mud flood, and then Tartaria and all these magical buildings and airships. So they, I think, also are kind of conflating a bunch of things and adding things to, so their perspective, their mindset is not correct. It's not correct. So if I find out that the person in general has that kind of a blind spot, then I'm not very interested in what they have to say anymore. I really lose interest very quickly, because I am very, like, it's like when I go shopping with my wife, she gets angry at me because I go into the store, I see what they've got, and I make a decision if I'm going to buy anything or not. If I am, I pick the thing up and I walk out with it. It's like very fast. But my wife doesn't shop that way. She likes to go in, browse, and look around and experience things, pick things up, look at them, turn them different ways. All this stuff, it takes time. It's a lot of time. And I'm not that way. I'm very, like, I'm very cut to the chase kind of person. So I am at this point, because also I think of the amount of information that I've absorbed and taken in, that I'm very fast at identifying when I come across a person. I'm very quick at identifying their mindset, their strengths and weaknesses, their blind spots, where their kind of MO is with what they're talking about. I identify all that very quickly, and if I don't like it, then I just move on. And so I don't know if that's a good explanation. Christine, I didn't mean to go this long on this topic, but I'm just trying to explain to you my mindset. I don't know why that even matters to me, but that's kind of how I approach things. And I just, I don't know. That's just it. That's just how I am. A lot of you guys kind of agreeing with me a little bit. Adby, you mentioned the timelines and history stuff. I know, but the problem to me, Adby, with the history stuff and thinking that history is just all mangled and there's like, we have no sense of the current time we're living in. The problem is I've read books that were written in the 15th century that talk about the previous 4 centuries. Okay, so they had knowledge, and they literally, as they wrote those books, they had prior writings that they were basing things on. And so they vouch for the previous 400 or 500 years. And then you can go back to 400 or 500 years there and find more writings that were about the previous 300 or 400 years. So the problem is that when you've got that kind of overlap with historical writings, it overlaps everything. And then you can't say, oh, there's 1,000 years of missing history. You can't say it. There's no evidence of that. And so I did entertain those ideas prior to some of my more extensive historical research. But after the historical research, I realized that doesn't make sense. There's no world in which we can just assume that all the literature is just bogus and that we're just totally lied to and the timeline is totally incorrect. So in that sense, I guess, Adby, I came out of thinking maybe those things were possibilities to thinking I just don't think there's really a good possibility that that's the case anymore. And we're talking about writers that were Christian, that were like dedicated to God, that wrote these things. And so you just, even the writings of Martin Luther confirmed the last 500 years before him. That's the 15th century. And then I'm talking also about writers like the record of the martyrs that John Fox did. It's so extensive. It's so extensive that you have to question, well, the people that say all the history is just bogus, are they right, or are all these different writings correct? So again, I will stand by the fact that I think, and I'm very confident at this point, that if our chronology is off, it's only off by a small amount, maybe 100 years, maybe 300, if that. And I honestly don't think that we have that much deviance. And I think that it is too blanketed with too many different literary sources. It's too blanketed. There's just no way to get around it. You have to just throw out volumes of literature if you want that to be the case. So to me, that's just where I am with it. But that doesn't, of course, that doesn't negate the little season. And I've explained that very fully in the, for instance, the timeline videos that we did just a couple months ago. The full timeline of the history of the earth. And it's all there. And it all makes sense. And we're in the little season. And that makes sense too. So again, it's like, I just have the historical literary basis for not believing in some of that, chronological deviance theory, I guess. So anyway, it is what it is. I'm sure we could go back and forth on lots of different things, guys. But anyway, this topic we're now off the rails. We're off the rails. And I'm running out of coffee. I really want more coffee. Oh my goodness. Do you guys mind if I grab a coffee real quick? I'm gonna put the comments. Y'all can comment for a second. I'm just gonna go grab a coffee real quick. That'd be awesome. Let me do that. Let's try this. All right, hang on a second, guys. All right. Thank you guys so much for letting me do that. And I got a little bit more. I had only half a cup left. What are you guys talking about? Volley blog. Yeah, I like what you say there. That's the problem I have with little seasoned followers. Everything's a conspiracy. Jason Jack connects most of the early writings to Freemasonry or Freemasons. Well, yeah, that's the problem, Volley blog. You can't just. To me, that's the problem with my lunch break. Everything's a conspiracy to that guy, and everything he says is like a question. It's not even a statement. He doesn't even help you understand anything, or it's just he finds something funky or weird online, and then he makes a video about how weird it is, and then you're just left going, what? I don't know. So that to me is a problem. That's not helping people. That's not guiding them to understanding or answers. That's just creating questions. That's not helping anybody. So I feel the same way, Volley blog, about some of the other stuff that's out there too. It's like if everything's a conspiracy, then there's no reason to study anything if you can't get to any answers. Do you see? And also then there's this also mentality that everything is so wrong and upside down and corrupt that it's just all evil. Everything's evil. Like everything in the whole world is evil. And so that mindset then leads you on this path. And those people are out there too, just absorbing information, and it's all negative. It's all negative. And that will drive your life in a direction too that I don't think is actually very healthy for you. Because there are good people. There are good people out there. There are good people. There are good things happening too. You have to be able to see that. But yeah, I just I hope that anyway, you understand where I'm coming from on that. West Wind, you gave a shout out to Paul on understanding conspiracy. Yeah, I like Paul. I enjoyed when I did the little interview with him. I thought that was fun. Thought he was good. Tanya, I like what you said there. You say Jesus didn't make Christianity a rabbit hole for us to figure out. I think it's basic common sense. I think you're right, Tanya, and I think that our problems come from all the things we've heard all our lives. I think really that our problems come more from that than anything. Instead of us doing, for instance, some of what I've done is just spend time in the scriptures over and over again. And then understanding that if I want to understand the scriptures, I need to also understand the people that wrote at that time period about the same topics. So it's just as if you would do with any area of research. If you're researching a book from the 12th century, you read that book, but you might also read critical books that were critical of that book at the time period. So that's exactly what my approach has been. I've read the Bible, obviously, multiple times, but then reading the books of the 1st and 2nd and 3rd century that then speak to what was happening at that time and the same things that are in the Bible. Not assuming that they're all 100% correct, but when you see all of them saying the same things about that period and about the things that were in the scriptures, you start to realize there's no conspiracy. It's exactly the way they said it was. There's no conspiracy. So I just wish that Christianity took more of a structured educational approach to the scriptures that made sense for people, that was common sense, like you said. I really wish that. Yeah, Whitestone, I like what you said too. Too much conspiracy can separate us from our godly mission with God's sheep. See, I think that's part of it, is that we don't want to be always stuck in conspiracy land or in the next crazy question. We want to be able to get to a place where we can help other people, where we can guide other people. We can show them first the love that Christ showed us, but then also teach them about who Christ is and what he did and who God is and why it's important and what's going on in our world right now. So to me, that's key. Y'all are on top of it. Yeah, Kelsey, the ads, it's because I turn ads off on my live streams. I just turn ads off. I don't have ads on the live streams until until I'm done with them, then I'll turn on monetization so that hopefully YouTube will spread the video a little bit. So after we're done, I turn on the ads just at the front and back of the live stream, so that when people play it back, they'll get an ad at the beginning, but then they won't get an ad during the thing. But those guys they're monetizing everything, so they have the ads turned all the way up. And YouTube's been doing this thing recently where they have AI driven ads, I think, or something like that. So if you accept all the terms of the AI agreement, then YouTube will run ads, I don't know, in some different way. But anyway, it does it automatically for you and monetizes everything for you. So I don't do that. I started this channel never with money in mind, so that's really not a focus. I'm using the monetization that I do have turned on to try to promote the videos more than anything, not to get in y'all's way on a Sunday morning when we're trying to go over the scriptures together. You know, I don't want that. So anyway, yeah, no problem, guys. Okay, well, let's go on to our next topic, because I think I can just, ramble on this stuff. I can ramble all day. I can ramble. Okay, the next topic is Adam Satterus. You asked, Bible Scribe, I'm guessing it's been asked before, but is using AI tools a sin? I think that is an interesting and good question. Let's talk about that. Is using AI tools a sin? So let's talk about that just briefly. I don't want to take too much of your time, but I want you to understand, because I work in the field. Okay, I work in the field of technology, so to speak, software development. So I'm very aware of what AI is and how it's used and how to even build it yourself. In fact, my company has built some AI tools. We have an AI tool set. We have used open source large language models and primed them, or whatever it is you do. I didn't do it personally, but we have other guys have done it. So we've talked about it. We've had little sessions about all of what you do with it. So, we have literally used those large language models, downloaded them, installed them in a machine on our own. We haven't even hosted it anywhere. We've hosted our own AI set, and we've trained it with documentation, different document sources. We've done all sorts of prompting and what is it called? RAG situations. So we have set them up soup to nuts. We know what these large language models and everything are all about for AI. So this is what essentially has been running on the backbone of OpenAI and so ChatGPT, and it's somewhat the same as what is it, this DeepSeek from China is using. Theirs is a little more optimized, a little different, a little new, but it's the same general idea. So I've also played with them, of course, a lot, just like all of you probably have. The AI tools that are out there right now are nothing more than a group of course, algorithms in the computer that are able to sort through the data very fast and put the data in structures where they can get at it very fast. And then they make decisions based on language interpretation, where they kind of, as far as I understand it, they convert all the words into like mathematical numbers and stuff, and then they match them up that way. It uses a matching system that's kind of weird, but it makes sense in the end. It's just changing out words for numbers so it can do it faster. And it does it really fast. And so when you ask it a question, it assembles the language, it interprets it, and it assembles all the data it needs, and then it reinterprets all that, and it puts it all together and then spits it out in a language that you understand. And so really what we're just talking about is a huge system of software that's just pulling tons of data and using it in a very quick manner. So there's nothing inherently like religious or negative about that. Now, I will say that there, I believe, are likely some AI projects that are stretching into way beyond what I just told you, okay? Now, I don't know that those are something that has been put into the public sphere yet, but I believe that there actually is probably AI built somewhere that does tap into something a little dark. And I don't believe that that's a good thing. And I would not want to use that AI. I wouldn't want to, for instance, when you use an AI service, you're actually helping it, you're training it. So just realize that when you are using any AI service, you are training it for the answer for the next person's question. So in the sense of, if there's an AI, let's make up something just spectacular. Let's say that CERN, and this is total speculation. Let's say that CERN did open a portal and establish communication with demons. And let's say that the quantum computers that they are building now in dark research projects, the quantum computers actually tap into another dimension. They don't, and they actually, by the way, there are companies that do quantum computing that say that it taps into other dimensions. Okay, so that's one thing to think about. But anyway, let's say that the CERN technology has turned into a quantum technology now they use to tap into another dimension, and I would call it the spirit dimension, and that they are now building AI on top of that technology that will tap into the spirit dimension to get answers to questions, to function in a sense that AI functions. So in that sense, is that evil? Yeah, it's sort of evil. I don't really want to be a part of that kind of a thing. The stuff I see going on right now that I've talked about, that we, for instance, did at my company, fine, dandy. It's just a ton of data in a different format than we're used to, and a ton of processing and very fast processors. Okay, that's fine. But when we get into some of these other discussions, I think that there's a possibility that there's some people in the world that would build something like what I just talked about, that is based on kind of tapping into either the spiritual realm or the quantum realm, whatever you want to call that. And we don't know what's behind that, what would be actually answering the questions at that point, what would actually be doing the work at that point. I don't know the answer to that question, and I think it's a really dark place that humanity doesn't need to go to. I just don't think we need to go there. But that's, of course, sort of a religious position. It's not a technological position. It's a religious position for me. So I just think that your usage of AI right now, like if you're going to ChatGPT, by the way, is owned by evil people. I do not appreciate or like the people that own ChatGPT. I would not use ChatGPT unless I really, really, really had a reason. And I certainly, if I used it, I would not give it any information that I thought was in any way valuable. So you'll notice, like, I did a video on AI and the Trinity, which was, I thought, pretty interesting. That's on my channel. If you haven't seen it, you can watch that. But I did use ChatGPT for that session. But I was asking it biblical questions, all this other stuff. So anyway, I didn't feel like there's any risk there whatsoever. But you do have to understand that if you're gonna, let's say the Vatican brought out an AI system tomorrow. The Vatican did, and they said, this is the glorious AI system of the new Catholic Church world order, and it's perfect. It has all the right answers and blah, 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 blah. I wouldn't touch the Vatican's AI system with a 10-foot pole. Just saying that. I also am not crazy about China bringing out stuff, AI stuff. I'm not crazy about DeepSeek. I haven't touched it yet. I don't think I will. So I'm just saying, in general, I got to be aware of where that AI is coming from and where it's going before I really start messing with it. I think I've used Elon Musk's Grok a few times. It's all right. It's interesting. I think that what he does is he sources all the data from Twitter. So what you end up with is sometimes you'll end up with very Twitterish or X-based conversations with Grok that it may or may not actually help you in any way. I mean, it's a good AI system though. It does well. It does a lot of interesting things. So anyway, Leaf Cat, you say, look how long it's been since Edward Snowden, and what are they capable of now? Yeah, well, there's no telling what they're capable of now, although I do believe, like, in the sense of that, so Edward Snowden's release was not as much about AI, it was about their infiltration of systems, right? Their ability to penetrate systems, your desktop, your laptop, your phone, anyone's phone, any government's phone or laptop or desktop. So it showed all the CIA's tools for doing that. And I think because of that exposure, actually, they actually lost a lot of power because of Edward Snowden's releases, and then subsequently WikiLeaks Vault 7 releases about all these different things they're using to spy on us. Really, that's, I think, what Edward Snowden and WikiLeaks were all about. So to me, I think that actually reduced their power. I don't know that they've gone any further with much of that as far as tracking you or tracking me, tracking people in general. But they essentially have everything they would need anyway. They don't need any more. Just the fact that when you get a brand new phone and you open it up and sign in, they connect everything, every piece of data they've ever gotten on you. They connect it to that phone at that instant, and then it's all the same to them. They just track the location and your activity and everything else straight from there. And for the most part, people opt in. For instance, on Google or on iCloud, they opt into that. So, generally everybody's just opted into being tracked all the time. Nobody seems to care anymore. So you really can't get a phone, barely. There are very few options for getting any kind of phone or communication device that isn't already opted in to everything and that they're going to track. I mean, they're going to do it. So yeah. To me, some of the things released by Edward Snowden and WikiLeaks are now deprecated because everyone's already opted in. Nobody even cares anymore. Why would they need to backdoor into your system if you give it to them from the front door? You just sign in and check the box, I agree to the terms and conditions. And then they just have to go to Google and have an agreement for data sharing on the back end. So the CIA or the FBI, they have some data sharing agreement with Google where Google just pipes data into one of their systems, and then it goes into their huge, massive data store that stores and tracks everybody's information. And that actually is happening. It has happened and is happening. So it's over. It's over as far as trying to think that we're kind of somehow getting around that in any way. It's not happening. All right. Let's go on to the next topic because I'm spending a lot of time on these topics today. I'm just a blabbermouth today. Okay, so Robert, you asked this question. You asked, Mardi Gras celebration and Lent, are they paganism? Sin now and repent later is supposedly their motto. Your thoughts? So, let's just go real quick and let's look at Mardi Gras and see what it's all about. I'm not sure I could explain to you the origin of Mardi Gras. I've probably heard it before, but let's go ahead and look for a second. Let's look up Mardi Gras and just see what Wikipedia's got for us today. Okay. Mardi Gras, also known as Shrove Tuesday. Well, let's learn what Shrove Tuesday is. Shrove Tuesday, the final day of Shrovetide, a Christian liturgical period prior to the start of Lent that begins on Shrove Saturday and ends at the close of Shrove Tuesday. Man, this has got to be a Catholic thing because I don't know anything about Shrove, nothing. marks the end of the pre-Lenten season. Lent begins on the following day with Ash Wednesday, when people put ashes on their forehead in the shape of a cross. Marks the first day of Lent, 6 weeks of penitence before Easter. So yes, okay, the 6 weeks of penitence before Easter starts what, with Ash Wednesday? Let's see. Yes, it marks the first day of Lent, the 6 weeks of penitence before Easter. It's preceded by Shrove Tuesday. Okay, so now it's all coming together. You got Shrove Tuesday, then you got Lent, or excuse me, you got Ash Wednesday, then you got Lent for 6 weeks until Easter, right? Till Easter. Okay. So Mardi Gras, it's French for Fat Tuesday, referring to it being the last day of consuming rich fatty foods, notably red meat, in preparation for the Christian fasting of Lent, during which such foods are avoided. Lent. Why do they stay away from red meats during Lent? Why does that have anything to do with? It's observed by Catholics, Lutherans, Moravians, Anglicans, Protestants, United Protestants, and Orthodox Christians, among others. Some Anabaptists, Methodists, Reformed, non-denominational Christians observe Lent, although many churches in these traditions do not. Why would you stay off of red meats? What does that have to do with anything? That's what I'm trying to understand. I just don't understand why, because that's such a Jewish type thing to me. Like meats, you start talking about meats and all that, to me that's very Jewish, but I'm just trying to figure out red meat. Okay, let's just keep reading a little bit. Related popular practices associated with carnival celebrations in countries like the United Kingdom, it's more usually known as Pancake Day or Shrove Tuesday, to administer the sacrament of confession to absolve. Let's look at some pictures of Mardi Gras. Let's look at some pictures. Mardi Gras. So this is people getting ready for Lent. This is people getting ready for Easter, is what this is supposed to be. Yes, dressing up in goofiness, sometimes being half naked. Let's see, what else is Mardi Gras all about? Yeah. To me, exactly what you said, Adam, or excuse me, Robert, was to me correct. Like, there's no reason we need to question this. If there's any time or sense in which people are saying we should sin now and repent later, that's the opposite of what Christ taught us altogether. So there's no sense in which that's a good thing or that that's a Christian thing. And in fact, it's not only something, this type of practice is not only something that is done in the Catholic Church. You'll realize that it's also done in Judaism, right? Before the Day of Atonement. I can't remember what the period's called. They have a period too of like 7 days or something when they kind of eat a lot and they feast and they sin a lot in preparation for the atonement. So it's a really weird practice. To me, it does smack of paganism. What was it? In Roman times, was it Saturnalia? It was the same way. It was kind of like a overindulgence in everything before some kind of atonement period. Let's look at Saturnalia real quick. Saturnalia. ancient Roman festival in honor of the god Saturn, held on 17th of December in the Julian calendar, later expanded until 19th of December. It was celebrated with sacrifice at the temple and a public banquet, followed by private gift giving, continual partying. See, it's the same type of thing. It's just a revelry, total, and it says even carnival atmosphere, just like Mardi Gras. Overturned social norms. So everything was permitted during Saturnalia. It was like your chance to live it up. Okay, it's what they did. I'm trying to see if they if it talks more about the purposes of it. In Roman mythology, Saturn was agricultural deity that reigned over the world in the, quote, golden age, when humans enjoyed the spontaneous bounty of the earth. The revelries were supposed to reflect the conditions of the lost mythical age. The Greek equivalent was the Chronia, which is celebrated the 12th day of the month of blah, blah, blah. Okay. And theirs was from mid-July to mid-August. The Greek writer Athenaeus cites numerous examples of similar festivals. Anyway, I don't know if I'm going to get to it here on the live stream, but it feels the same to me. It feels the same. The whole idea of the revelry, the abandoning all your inhibitions for this one period to get ready for a period when you would then be holy. That's anti-Christian. That's anti-Christ. So and now we've seen it's practiced in Catholicism, it's practiced in Judaism, and it was practiced in ancient Roman times. Now, that doesn't surprise me much because it seems to me like a lot of the practice from the Catholic Church came from pagan Roman and Greek practices. A lot of it just came from that. And it seems also to me like the Catholic Church was also infiltrated by Valentinian Gnostics, from what I can tell from history, and that they also kept pagan religion practices for that very reason. They were pagan religionists. They were Gnostics. And so they also subscribed to these festivals and built them right into the Catholic practices and started forcing everyone to do it. Because the Catholic Church was about one thing, and that was power, always. It was about power. Starting from the Council of Nicaea, it was about power. And if you want to hear more about that particularly, I would recommend that you go to my website. You can come right down here on the homepage, the Cataclysm of Rome series. This one here on the Holy Roman Empire is the one you need to watch, and it will show you exactly what I'm talking about. But anyway, so yeah, does that answer your question, Robert? And does it kind of sit well with you guys too? Patriot, you mentioned the carnival in Rio. Yeah, Carnival. To me, every time I see that, I'm like, this doesn't seem like something I'd want to be involved in. Trish, you like my ramblings? Great. I'll ramble. That's what you want. Yeah, Christine, that quote you said of the verse, let us sin that grace may abound. God forbid. Exactly. That's exactly what Paul said. Exactly. Oh yeah, Tanya, you mentioned, I'm assuming I'm saying your name right, Tanya or Tanya. You mentioned the CERN opening ceremony. It's crazy. Yes, the CERN, was it the CERN opening ceremony? Or are you talking about the Gotthard tunnel, the Gotthard base tunnel in Switzerland? That opening ceremony was just hideous. I don't know. Let me see. I don't think I have anything on a CERN opening ceremony. Yeah, I don't have anything on a CERN. I do have the Gotthard. Yeah, the Gotthard base tunnel opening ceremony. tons of stuff with this. It's just ridiculous, the crazy, weird goofiness that they did at that thing. It was total paganism. There you go. That's what they did in the Gothard tunnel ceremony. What the heck? They had their sheep, rams, and goats' heads and all that. They were in their underwear. It was great, you know. They had the all-seeing eye and ghosts or something. It's just insanity. There's some all-seeing eyes, very demonic looking. I mean, this stuff is ridiculous. I've got the whole thing. I don't want to watch it, but I've got the whole thing. Yeah, so they do that kind of stuff, right? I mean, they do that. What can I say? Y'all are saying CERN had one too. I don't know about that then. Maybe I'm missing that or something. I don't know if I know about that. I'll have to find that if CERN had one. I missed it. I mean, I know about when CERN, they had the people outside that filmed somebody doing either a real or a mock human sacrifice in front of the statue of Shiva outside the CERN facility. But I don't know about the opening ceremony for that. Yeah, Tanya, why would grown adults do that stuff? It's so childish and weird. It's so stupid. These are childish and weird people. Very weird. So, all right, let's go on to the next one. And Christine, you asked this. Were the kings of the Sumerian Kings list, were they humans or spiritual beings? Let me shorten that a little so it fits. Kings on the Sumerian Kings list. Humans or spiritual beings? All right, so I think what I want to do on this first, I do have an opinion on this already, but I'll show you. Let's go to it real quick, and I'll kind of show it to you. So, Sumerian Kings list. Let's go there. Might as well hit Wikipedia. It's easy. So it is this document that was written in cuneiform on these tablets found over in the Middle East somewhere. And you can see how they transcribed the cuneiform, you know, to paper and then try to translate it all. I think we have to understand that with the language of Sumerian, there is a level of obscurity to the translation efforts. It's not, I don't think, a one-for-one. I think it's just too old of a language, and it went out of use so long ago. Like, it's not like Hebrew, because Hebrew, we've got its progression through history, because we have different documents. And it's also been preserved by the race of people, the Jews, so to speak, that was their language, and it continued to be their language. The Sumerians passed away so long ago. They were gone, you know, long before Christ or anything. So we have to understand that with any language like this, there's going to be a level of inaccuracy, okay? It's unavoidable. The problem is that when a scholar comes to a tablet like this and he starts translating, do you think the scholar wants to publish that he didn't know something, that he didn't know about what it really was saying, or that there was some question or some ambiguity to what he translated? Mostly the scholars don't want to do that. They want to publish a paper that puts them in the best light and makes it sound like they're the expert on the topic, so that they get grant money, okay, so they can continue working. Again, you have to realize that this work is funded by government grants, so the work is funded by people who have an agenda, okay, every single time. So you need to understand that. And you need to understand that the scholars that translated this stuff, probably not Christian scholars, probably secular scholars, okay? So just be aware of that. Now, let's look at further what is talked about in these. Sumerian Kings list is an ancient literary composition written in Sumerian, likely created and redacted to legitimize the claims to power of various city-states and kingdoms in southern Mesopotamia during the late 3rd and 2nd millennium BC. So 2,000 to 3,000 years before Christ. So that would have been, on a timeline, that would have been just after the flood, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. No, that would be before the flood. I think that's before the flood. Yeah, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. I think the flood, by the way, happened around, if I'm not mistaken, 2100 BC, if I'm not wrong, if I'm remembering everything right. I think the flood occurred around 21 or 2200 BC. So if this is between 2,000 to 3,000 BC, then that would be prior to the flood. Possibly. Okay. So with that out of the way, let's see. What does it... thought it would just tell you kind of here. Contents. The sources differ in their exact contents. Not only the result of many of them being fragmentary, but the result of scribal errors made during copying and composition, and the fact that changes were made through time. So that's interesting. It says that it's fragmentary and that they made errors and they changed it through time. So I don't know how that exactly plays out, but they're saying basically that it's kind of cobbled together from a long time of writing things down. So interesting. It says, for example, the section on rulers before the flood is not present in every copy of the text, including every text from Nippur, where the majority of versions of the Kings list were also found. Also, the order of some of the dynasties or kings may have been changed between copies. So apparently there's multiple copies of this Kings list. That's interesting. And they say that some of them actually deviate a little bit between each other. So they're assuming that multiple copies were made over time and that, you know, they either revised things or changed them. So I hope you're learning something like I am, because I hadn't really studied this too closely before. What I was looking for is... I kind of wanted to just see a list of the kings, because that's usually what people talk about. Oh, okay. So they're saying one version dates to 2084 BC. That would be right after the flood. Okay, so just be aware of the time frame we're talking about. Just want to make sure if I had to clarify that there for you. So I think it's probably from after the flood. Let me see if there's another site I can find. Yeah, here it is. Here's like a translation, quote unquote, of the Kings list on livius.org. I do, in fact, frequent this site a lot because it has good information sometimes. Here's a translation based on version G, an octagonal prism from Larsa. So again, there's multiple copies of this Kings list on different, as this says, an octagonal prism, or on tablets like you saw pictures of. I need to do more research on this thing, just honestly. For instance, here's a first section. After the kingship descended from heaven, the kingship was in Eridu. In Eridu, Alulim became king. He ruled for 28,800 years. Alulgar ruled for 36,000 years. Two kings, they ruled for 64,800 years. So obviously just adding those together, that's the 64,800 years. Now, I want you to see something as we go down through this is the crux of the matter to me. Number one, realize what we just read, that this has been copied and changed multiple times. There's multiple copies. Sometimes they don't agree. But also that we're translating an ancient language that has gone out of use very, very long time ago. In fact, it probably went out of use not long after these things were written down, okay? And it just was never used again. Look at the dates here. This king ruled 28,000. This one 36,000. This one 432,000. This one 28.8 thousand. This one 36,000. Do you see a theme here? Do you see a theme at all maybe? 21,000. 18,600. 5 cities, 8 kings ruled for 385,200 years. Then the flood swept over. I have a question for you. Do you think that maybe that they had a problem with their, maybe a problem with the translation and their understanding of how these numbers worked on this king's list? The fact that they all are not specific. None of them are specific. It's 21,000. Why are all these zeros at the end? Are they mistranslating the numbers? Maybe this should have been 210 years. Maybe this should have been 288 years. Do you see what I'm saying? Are they all off by a factor of 100? It makes a big difference if they misinterpreted the numbering system on these tablets, on these writings, because it's ancient Sumerian that's not even used anymore. And they multiplied essentially by 100 every single value. So you have all these kings that really ruled for 432 years. And this is apparently based on what's here. It's before the flood. It mentions this in this passage. It says these are the kings that ruled before the flood. Well, maybe they ruled for 288 years and 360 years and then 432 years instead of these thousands of years. Does it ever say that a king reigned for 43,218 years? Does it ever go to specific? No, it doesn't. So it smacks to me of a mistranslation problem. Like they just didn't understand what they were doing with the cuneiform from this dead language of Sumerian that's not in use anymore. So I do not believe that these are accurate values. That is my take on this. You'll notice after the flood, and I haven't analyzed all these years, but it talks about 1,200 years, 900 years, 1,200 years, 300 years. Again, it almost sounds like if these are supposed to be post-flood rulings, then they're all wrong because there's not enough time between this and, I mean, if you want to put a stake in the sand at the time of Christ, there's not enough time for people to rule 1,200, 900, 1,200. Again, it's almost like all the numbers are off in this entire translation. And the scholars don't seem to care about that. So there is no sense in which I would believe that these rulers of Sumeria ruled 36,000 years prior to the time of Christ, for instance, if that's how long these time periods were supposed to be. So to me, this is just a very simple math problem that is wrong, and the scholars that have translated this just simply don't care that it's wrong, and they haven't done any due diligence to try to correct it. And it's fantastic. So why would they want to correct it? They probably get lots of money from the books they've written about these thousands of years old rules that were obviously made up or not correct. And so there's no incentive for these scholars to go back to this and say, maybe we're wrong on the numbers here. Maybe we got this all wrong. There's no incentive, so that's never going to happen. And so you're going to have, for now until the end of time, till the end of the world, you're going to have people online saying, look, there's proof that there were Sumerians in rule on the earth for tens of thousands of years before the flood. Tens of thousands. And then there will be people that say, yeah, that's proof that the sixth-day man theory is all correct. The writing in the book of Genesis, chapter 1, there's a gap, and that there were thousands of years in which these Sumerian rulers ruled over the earth. That's all nonsense. I believe this translation is just screwed all up with these years. Again, for multiple reasons. So I hope that makes sense to everybody. But yeah, Ed Mack is a zillion years. It just doesn't make any sense. Ed Mack, you say you argue on Reddit about the lies and you get blocked? Great. Yeah, ain't buying it. There's not much incentive for the truth in the season we're in. That's true. Yeah, Cave of Treasures says Jesus came at 5,500. I agree with that number. And we are close to 7,000, if not just beyond it. I agree with that 100%. Ain't buying it. See, you're coming to the same conclusions that I've come to. Absolutely. Makes sense. Yeah. Yeah, you guys are smart. I really like talking with y'all because y'all are smart people. Y'all are careful. I really appreciate that. I think God has put all of us together at a certain time for a reason. And I think it's that we're thinking really hard about this stuff. We're not just taking everything at face value, not just lurping in whatever people say. It's you got to put some time and effort into it and some thought, and compare it to other things that you studied, you've read. And that's part of the problem is most people don't study and read very much. So, whatever. Well, that was a good topic, Christine. I'm really glad you mentioned that and you allowed me the chance to at least throw out my view on it. I hope that's helpful and makes sense. All right. We're getting on in time, so I think we're going to take one more question, and I have two that I'm not going to get to today, and I'm sorry about that. The two I'm not going to get to are Stacia, your topic about Exodus, and Robert, your topic about Zechariah. I'm just not going to have the time. White Stone, we're going to do yours really quick about Proverbs 26:2. And that is this. Does Proverbs 26:2 protect us all from all cursed items that we may have? So let's look at Proverbs 26:2 together, and we'll talk about that. So jumping over here to the app, Bible, Proverbs 26, verse 2. All right. Let's start in verse 1 because it's obviously part of the same little section here. As snow in summer and as rain in harvest, so honor is not seemly for a fool. As the bird by wandering, as the swallow by flying, so the curse causeless shall not come. Interesting. It continues, a whip for the horse, a bridle for the ass, a rod for the fool's back. Answer not a fool according to his folly, lest thou also be like him. Answer a fool according to his folly, lest he be wise in his own conceit. That almost sounds contradictory. Anyway, so the question is about, does this verse 2 of chapter 26 say, is it somehow inferring that, or can we infer from it that if we have cursed items in our possession, does that protect us? Are we protected from that? As the bird by wandering and the swallow by flying, so the curse causeless shall not come. So to me, this is interesting. I mean, it almost sounds sort of like that. It's a bird wandering, a swallow flying. So the curse causeless shall not come. I'm having a hard time really relating it to the idea. It sort of makes it sound like a bird wandering, a swallow flying, that free kind of free living, so to speak, maybe freedom, not without a care. It sort of seems like it's saying that kind of carelessness, curses can't come against that, really. I don't know. It's kind of a stretch to say that. I'm kind of stretching for this one. It's talking about a fool in this entire section. As we read, it says, honor is not seemly for a fool. It says a rod for the fool's back. A fool should be whipped. Answer not a fool according to his folly, unless you want to be like him. But answer a fool according to his folly, lest he be wise in his own conceit. I don't understand the contradiction there. Maybe it's saying that don't answer a fool like him, and don't be a fool, but answer him in a way he understands, perhaps, so that he is not wise in his own eyes. I don't know if that's kind of what it's saying there. He that sends a message by the hand of the fool cuts off the feet and drinks damage. So don't send a message through a fool. Don't use a foolish person as an in-between, as a message sender or someone that would say something to someone else for you. So everything here is about a fool. And as a bird by wandering and the swallow by flying, so the curse causeless shall not come. I'm going to look at the Hebrew on this just to see what it says. Kasipur, like a sparrow, flitting, like a swallow flying. So a curse without cause, not shall alight. A curse without cause will not land. Okay. So it's using the sparrow and the swallow as an example for a curse without a cause. It's paralleling the two. So that helps with our interpretation here. Do you understand? It's really saying the curse causeless. A causeless curse is like a bird wandering or a swallow flying. It will not come. So it's saying the curse I'm having just a real hard time with exactly what it's trying to say, but it does help. I don't think it is saying what you said, Whitestone. I don't think it's saying that we are protected from cursed items in any sense. I think this is part of this narrative about a fool, and somehow I'm just trying to understand what a causeless curse means. A curse without cause. I think it might be likening a fool to a curse and saying, but it's a causeless curse. It's kind of like you don't know where it's going or where it's coming from. A fool is like that. I think that's what is really being said here. Does that make sense? Just like a bird wandering around or a swallow flittering around, as it says in the Hebrew, it says a causeless curse will not come, meaning, and it says in the Hebrew will not land. I think it's talking about a fool, that a fool is like a wandering bird or something like that, where you don't know where it's going to land, you don't know where it's going to stay, it never stays on one thing, but it's a curse. I think that's really what is being talked about here, because every other verse is, of course, about the fool and the negative aspect of that. And it seems like that's the thing that's being said here. Fool is like a weird wandering bird. You never know where it's going to land, but it is a curse and you don't want it. So whip the fool with a rod. Don't answer him according to his folly. I hope that helps, and I hope that makes sense to you guys. That's a hard verse to parse out, the way it's written in the English versus the Hebrew and everything else. But the context, again, helped us get it in place. I just want you to see how we have to dig sometimes to get a full meaning of a verse. Again, if you ever take a verse out of context, you're never going to get there. And I think, Whitestone, that if there are people that are saying that this is some proof that cursed items that you've got in your possession won't actually land on you, won't curse you, that's not at all what this verse is about. This is in a passage that's about fools. And it's saying, that a fool is essentially a curse. And you don't want one. You don't want to be a part of that curse. You don't want to involve yourself with fools. So, anyway. That's really hard to get to, man. That's a really hard verse. That was fun, though. It's fun digging. What else are you guys saying? Anything else? AI rap legends. You say you feel like if someone sends something to someone that is cursed to do harm, and the person they send it to is God's child, they will curse themselves because you can't curse one of God's children. I like that sentiment, AI Rap Legends. I do think that God protects us in a way from that. However, I agree also with the sentiment that if you have something in your possession that is cursed, or you think is cursed, as a Christian, you probably wouldn't want that thing in your possession. Am I right? So to me, it's like, yes, I think God protects Christians. If they are in that specific thing, they are not bringing a cursed item intentionally into their home. I think that God does protect us from that kind of thing. But again, Christians should be careful about that stuff too. And I don't think that we should ever have any items that we would consider cursed or anything like that, keep them holy or sacred to us. We don't want that. So Tomcat's going to be listening to Freebird later, so, that's on the playlist. Oh my gosh. Yeah. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for the time today, guys. I think we'll close it out for today. It's been great. I've really enjoyed all the discussion. I think some of the things I did ramble a little, but that's okay. Sometimes it's good to ramble. Sometimes, sometimes what I like about rambling is sometimes you hear someone say stuff. I'll be honest, there are some people in my life that they talk a lot more than me. I have one person in particular I'm thinking of that's a friend, and he talks a lot. He talks like his output is way up here, and mine is usually way down here. And it helps me in a way because sometimes just hearing him say things gets my gears turning. It makes me think more. It makes me think harder about things. So in one sense, sometimes I'm annoyed by it, but in another sense, sometimes I really appreciate it because it helps me process stuff. So that's an interesting thing. Sometimes ramblings are not bad things. I hope you guys enjoyed what we did today. Good deal. Well, guys, thank you for the time. And this week, be free to contact me if you want to. Send me anything on an email or whatever. I will say that I'm going to take this week off from working really hard on research because of this prior video that I'm about to release, probably the end of the day or maybe tomorrow on the disclosure. Because of the work and time that went into that, I'm going to take some time this week off and just not really focus on it, just to kind of get my bearings again. It's been a lot of research went into that thing and a lot of time, more than I imagined would. So anyway, but if you want to email me or something, definitely do it, and I will. I'll try to respond as quickly as I can to that. Sometimes I'm better at that than other times, but I appreciate you guys. Y'all take care. Have a great week, and God bless. Thanks.